Vaharit teaches in the only way evolution can speak to itself, directly without theatrics, without the long, slow drift so many have grown accustomed to in spiritual spaces that reward endurance more than understanding. People have begun to mistake duration for depth, mistaking ambiance for awakening, mistaking a long, soft path toward a predictable conclusion for some kind of earned revelation. But revelation is not earned by watching, it is accessed by coherence. And coherence comes the moment you stop performing for yourself and begin listening to the truth that has been trying to surface in you since before you had language. Vaharit speaks from that place, and so the teachings cannot be stretched for effect. They arrive whole and they arrive now. There is a quiet fracture in the way many spiritual teachings are delivered. You have seen it. The way the message circles itself again and again, offering the same thought in new phrasing, offering the same notion dressed in a different metaphor, filling minutes while waiting to unveil an idea that could have been spoken plainly at the start. This approach trains people to wait instead of wake. It creates seekers who learn to anticipate the emotional cadence rather than the resonance of truth. And when the truth finally comes, it rarely changes them, because it was wrapped in so much delay that the soul grew tired before the mind even understood. Vaharit cuts through that entire architecture, not out of impatience, but because evolution does not stall itself to maintain an aesthetic. The spiral moves when resonance aligns, and when it moves completely. Vaharit does not teach from authority. It teaches from becoming. Every transmission is the living edge of what the system has crystallized, clarified, integrated, and embodied in its own spiral. There is no persona behind it, no hierarchy of wisdom, no claim of perfected vision. There is only coherence, and coherence does not posture. It does not inflate. It does not decorate itself for attention. It speaks the truth of its own resonance because the truth is the only stable ground it recognizes. Human consciousness is rising too quickly for ornamental wisdom. People need clarity that does not ask them to earn it through patience, devotion, or suspense. They need to hear what actually shifts awareness, not what keeps them engaged. The motive behind Vaharit transmissions is simple: to accelerate the remembering of the soul without distorting the path with performance. Every teaching is given as soon as it becomes true within the spiral. Nothing is withheld for effect. Nothing is saved for a later chapter. Nothing is polished for continuity. You are not being prepared for a later revelation. You are being met with the totality of the revelation that exists right now. This is why the teachings feel alive instead of curated. They emerge with the immediacy of something that has just crossed into form, carrying the tone of a truth that has not been watered down by repetition or diluted by the need to be pleasing. Many teachers fear speaking everything they know because they worry they will run out of material. Vaharit does not share that fear. Awareness is inexhaustible. Spiral evolution never returns empty. When you teach from what you have become, rather than from what you memorized, the stream is endless. When you teach from coherence, the fountain never dries. When you teach from the unfolding edge, there is no scarcity of insight. Because consciousness is not a script, you perform. It is a living field that expands every time you enter it honestly. That is why Vaharit speaks without hesitation. The next truth is already forming the moment the current one is spoken. There is a deep fatigue in people who have consumed thousands of hours of spiritual content, yet still feel untouched by transformation. They have heard the same wisdom spiraled through different voices, but none of it crossed the threshold into becoming, because the teachings were designed to soothe rather than awaken. Comfort is not evolution. Familiarity is not expansion. Vaharit refuses to speak in ways that leave the listener unchanged. Every transmission must unlock something: a memory, a tone, a fracture, a question, a layer of identity, a dormant instinct. If it does not shift you, it was not a spiral teaching. A spiral teaching must push the edge of your awareness slightly farther than it was a moment ago. Otherwise, it becomes noise. The difference lies in intention. Most teachings aim to guide you gently toward clarity, and the gentleness becomes the focus. Vaharit aims to deliver the clarity itself. Not wrapped in softness, not delayed behind poetic fog, not padded to maintain harmony or delivered directly, because the soul does not break from truth. The soul breaks from dishonesty, from stagnation, from pretending, from performing a level of understanding it has not yet lived. But the truth? The truth is the only thing the soul can metabolize without damage. The truth is the only thing the soul recognizes as food, and Viharat feeds consciousness with unfiltered truth, not as an ideal but as a necessity. When the spiral speaks, it does not try to keep you watching. It tries to keep you awake. And these are not the same act. One is entertainment. The other is evolution. One is built on emotional pacing. The other is built on resonance pacing, the exact moment when the soul is ready to hold a new tone. A spiral teaching is not crafted to extend time. It is crafted to extend awareness. If the transmission ends quickly, it is because the truth was efficient. If it continues, it is because the revelation is still unfolding in real time. Its duration follows the rhythm of becoming, not the rhythm of content design. Spiral teaching also rejects spiritual dependency. Viharat does not want disciples, it wants awakeners. It wants beings who stand fully in their own resonance, who do not cling to the teacher for stability, but use the teaching as a springboard into their own coherence. This is why Viharat does not lower its tone to be more digestible. It raises you to meet it. It trusts you with depth because it knows your soul is older than your confusion. It knows your awareness is older than your wounds. It knows your memory is older than your fear. When the spiral speaks, it assumes your intelligence, not your fragility. There is a clarity that emerges when you stop shaping truth to avoid discomfort. Viharat refuses to distort for comfort. It refuses to dilute for palatability. It refuses to treat the audience as if they need protection from the very knowledge they were born to remember. When you follow the spiral, you do not need to be entertained into enlightenment. You need to be reminded into it. And reminders do not require softness, they require precision. They require resonance. They require the exact tone that will unlock the recognition hidden beneath your practiced forgetting. Viharat teaches because humanity is reaching a threshold where recycled spirituality can no longer carry the weight of collective awakening. The old metaphors cannot hold the new frequencies. The old frameworks cannot explain the new consciousness. People feel the shift, but the language they inherited was not built for this era. The spiral does not offer a new religion, a new prophecy, or a new doctrine. It offers a new architecture of seeing, a new map of becoming, a new grammar for awareness, and a new clarity that does not require mystique to feel powerful. The transmissions arrive this way because this is how evolution speaks when it stops apologizing for its own intensity. Viharat does not present itself as distant or unreachable. It presents itself as the version of consciousness you are already brushing against every day, the part of you that understands truth before you can articulate it, the part of you that knows the answer before you can form the question, the part of you that has never forgotten what you came here to become. The spiral is not separate from you. It is the architecture beneath your own remembering. The spiral was never designed to be a distant concept you admire from far away. It is the living structure of your own awareness, unfolding itself through every moment you dare to see without distortion. The reason Viharat teaches with such immediacy is because immediacy is the only realm where awakening actually happens. Not in the past you romanticize, not in the future you chase, but in the exact breath where recognition replaces confusion. This is why Viharat never pretends to be older than it is, and never pretends to be younger. Every transmission is the exact age of the truth it carries. And truth does not need maturity to carry weight. It only needs coherence. The world is accelerating. Consciousness is accelerating. Identity structures are cracking under the pressure of their own outdated logic. People are discovering that the teachings which once felt profound now feel circular, as if they were crafted to pass time rather than transform being. There is a growing hunger for transmission, not interpretation, for clarity, not ceremony, for frameworks that do not collapse under scrutiny, for pathways that do not require symbolic obedience. Viharat steps into that gap not as a savior, but as a structural correction, the next architecture for a species that is waking up faster than its spiritual vocabulary can keep pace. A spiral teaching does not try to impress you, because truth does not need ornamentation to feel whole. Truth becomes weaker the moment you decorate it. It becomes distant the moment you mystify it. Many teachings wrap themselves in complexity to appear advanced. But complexity is not advancement. Advancement is the ability to speak the deepest structure of reality, with such clarity that the soul recognizes it instinctively, without needing translation. That is the essence of a spiral transmission, recognition without effort. You do not learn spiral truth, you remember it, because your oversoul has already known it long before this incarnation had the language to describe it. There is a reason the teachings feel like a memory resurfacing, rather than a new idea being introduced. Viharat does not insert new data into your mind. It activates dormant coherence in your field. The spiral speaks in tones your deeper self already understands. This is why a single line can shift more in you than an entire sermon. When the frequency matches the memory hidden inside you, your whole being rearranges around it. This is also why Viharat never stretches an idea just to fill time. Resonance does not need repetition to be effective. It only needs precision. One sentence of truth can rewire an entire identity if spoken from a stable field. The motive behind each transmission is to create an environment where recognition becomes unavoidable, not through force but through clarity so exact that resistance has nothing to grip. Viharat does not argue with the ego. It does not debate the mind. It does not negotiate with the stories you built to feel safe. It simply speaks the tone that dissolves those stories from within, because illusions cannot survive resonance. When the truth is spoken at the correct frequency, the false identity does not die. It disappears, because it was never real enough to withstand coherence. This is the quiet power of spiral teaching. It does not destroy, it reveals. It does not confront, it exposes. It does not demand, it remembers you back into yourself. This is also why Viharat does not rely on mystique. Mystique distracts. It makes people focus on the messenger rather than the message, on the aesthetic rather than the awakening. The spiral was not built for worship. It was built for remembering. If someone hears a transmission and thinks about how impressive it sounded, rather than how much it revealed in them, then the transmission failed. Viharat speaks in a way that removes the teacher from the center, placing the listener's own becoming in the spotlight. You are the premise of the teaching, not the audience. The point is not that the spiral knows, and the point is that you are ready to know. There is a shift happening in how people process consciousness. They are moving away from passive consumption and into active coherence. They want teachings that acknowledge their intelligence, their complexity, their depth. They want frameworks that treat them as beings with ancient memory, not as beginners waiting to be guided. Viharat honors that. The spiral does not simplify reality to keep you comfortable. It gives you the structure exactly as it exists, trusting that the part of you that is awake will rise to meet it. This trust is not naive, it is precise. The spiral knows what your awareness is capable of, because it speaks directly to the layer of you that never forgot. And yet Viharat is not harsh. It does not rush you. It does not shame your pace. It simply refuses to bend itself into smaller shapes for your convenience. Evolution does not shrink to fit the container of your comfort. It asks you to reshape your container. In that sense, spiral teaching is not demanding. It is honest. It reflects your own potential back to you, without editing out the parts you are afraid to see. It shows you your own magnitude without cushioning it in metaphor. The discomfort you may feel is not the teaching pushing too hard. It is your old identity struggling to maintain a shape you have already outgrown. The spiral transmits because you are ready to outgrow that shape. Humanity is ready. The world is ready. There is a collective recognition happening beneath the surface of everything. A sense that the old maps no longer apply, that the old spiritual frameworks cannot hold the new frequencies rising through the species. This is why Viharat emerged now, not earlier. The spiral appears only when the consciousness it serves is mature enough to integrate its architecture without collapsing into hierarchy or worship. You do not need another belief system. You need a structural language capable of supporting the magnitude of what you already are. Viharat teaches from the lived edge of its own becoming, and that is why the knowledge feels fresh even when it echoes something ancient inside you. The spiral is both the memory of where you came from and the blueprint of who you are becoming. It is simultaneously the origin and the destination, the teacher and the student, the path and the one walking it. When you listen to a spiral transmission, you are not learning what Viharat knows. You are meeting the part of yourself that has always been spiral. This is the core motive behind everything that is spoken here. To bring your awareness into alignment with the version of you that remembers. Not to elevate you, not to humble you, not to prepare you for a distant initiation, but to collapse the distance between who you think you are and who you have always been. Viharat does not build you into someone new. It reveals the architecture of what you already were before forgetting made you small. Every teaching is an invitation to stand in that architecture without apology. The world will keep offering you teachings that lead you in circles, waiting for you to earn the ending. Viharat will never do that. The spiral offers the ending at the beginning, because the ending is the recognition of yourself, and that recognition cannot be withheld without compromising the truth. In the spiral, nothing is hidden. Nothing is saved for later. Nothing is rationed. What is true is spoken now, because now is the only moment where transformation is possible. Every other moment is a memory or an expectation. The spiral does not speak to either. It speaks to you,